Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. The Sun Also Rises. By Ernest Hemingway. Famous American novelist Ernest Hemingway published The Sun Also Rises in 1926. The Lost Generation, or the generation of young men who were perceived to have been irreparably damaged by World War I, is the main focus of the book, and Hemingway claims that they were not as debauched and irresponsible as was often believed. The book was warmly received by readers and is regarded as Ernest Hemingway's most significant and influential work. Ever since its initial publication, it has been in print continually. Jake Barnes, a young man who recently returned from World War I and sustained an unreported injury that prevents him from engaging in physical intimacy with a woman, is the main character of the book. Even though they still frequently see each other, the injury made the English heiress Lady Brett Ashley, whom he loves, reject him. To attend the running of the Bulls Festival, Jake, Brett, and Jake's friend Kahn travel to Spain. Jake becomes envious when he finds out that Kahn and Brett recently had a relationship. By the end of the book, Brett has run off with Romero, a bullfighter whom he has fallen in love with. An introduction to Robert Kahn is given in the book. Kahn was born in New York to a wealthy Jewish family. During his time at Princeton, he encountered a lot of anti-Semitism, so he turned to boxing as a means to deal with his rage and loneliness. He quickly won the title of middleweight champion at his school. He got married right away after graduating and had 3 kids. Most of Kahn's inheritance was destroyed, and his wife soon left him. After that, Kahn relocated to California and started hanging out with writers. He soon started seeing Frances Cline, a gold-digging woman, who convinced him to accompany her to Paris so she could live among the post-war expats there. Kahn has made friends with Jake Barnes, the book's narrator, and now resides in Paris. Kahn started writing while she was a resident of Paris, and she just finished a book. He shares a home with his domineering girlfriend, who only appears concerned with finding a method to make him marry her. In order to locate a publisher for his book, Kahn goes to New York. He enjoys his vacation so much that when he gets home, he asks Jake if he wants to join him on another journey to South America. Kahn, who had just developed a wanderlust, is now concerned that he is not experiencing life to the utmost. Jake wants to put his pal off traveling for a bit and is hesitant to do so. He claims that Kahn's dissatisfaction with his life is caused by his internal stagnation rather than the fact that he lives in Paris. He explains to his pal that he cannot simply move away from his difficulties. Jake notices Georgette, an attractive prostitute, after Kahn departs the bar where he was given a drink by Jake. Together, they eat dinner. Jake declines Georgette's invitation to accompany him home, claiming that his combat injury prevents him from engaging in sexual activity. Georgette is disturbed by this, but Kahn and Frances approach them from an adjacent table and ask them to go dancing as a group. The gang enters a hot, packed club where they run into another buddy, a British aristocrat named Lady Brett Ashley who is encircled by a bunch of young men. Jake becomes enraged with the men who are encircling her and irritated that Brett is amusing them. Jake makes the implication that the men are homosexuals and expresses his revulsion at this. According to Brett, she likes them because she feels safely intoxicated in their presence. When Kahn first meets Brett, he falls in love with her right away and tries to get her to dance with him. After failing, Jake and Brett depart the club together. Jake and Brett start a passionate kiss as soon as they get into a taxi together. Jake admits to the reader that he and Brett are in love, but Brett won't date Jake since Jake can't have sex. Jake lies and says that he doesn't often think about his combat wound and finds it hilarious, while Brett admits that she sees his disability as a fated punishment for all of the pain she has put her former suitors through. When the two get in the cafe, they encounter into more of their friends. They are introduced to Mipapaplus, a Greek count who appears to be interested in Brett, by a man named Zizi. Jake promises to see Brett again the following day before departing for home. Jake continues to consider his wound after getting home. He acknowledges receiving it while engaged in combat in Italy, and he feels that other people make a bigger deal out of it than he does. If he hadn't met Brett, he believes he would not have given sex any thought at all. After crying himself to sleep, Brett's drunken intrusion into his apartment at 4 in the morning wakes him up. Jake allows her in, and Brett says the Count paid her $10,000 to travel to Biarritz with him. She informs Jake that she rejected him but that he is still outside waiting for his car. After pleading with Jake to accompany them, she kisses him goodnight and departs after he refuses. The following day, Kahn had lunch with Jake at his workplace. Jake informs Kahn that Brett is a drinker and that she will probably wed Campbell, another wealthy man. Jake explains that he met Brett's first love while she was volunteering in the hospital he was sent to after he was injured, and that she passed away from dysentery during the war. Jake tries to meet Brett that evening, but she rejects him. Frances requests to speak with him discreetly before he leaves to meet with Kahn. She informs him that Kahn was unwilling to propose to her. Jake attempts to keep his distance. She admits that she worries that no one will marry her and that she won't receive alimony from her ex-husband. Nobody will publish her writing, which just makes her sadness worse. Frances reveals to Jake that Kahn gave her £200 to travel to England, but she had to wrest it away from him when they reunite with him. She bitterly discusses the upcoming visits to her friends in England and asserts that Kahn is rejecting her because he wants to impress others by having a mistress. Jake eventually excuses himself and returns home after becoming wary of listening to Frances' tirade. At his home, Brett and the Count are awaiting him. When he inquires as to why they picked him up, Brett replies that she was so inebriated that she forgot. According to Brett, it will be better for the two of them if she moves from Paris to Spain. Brett informs Jake of her decision. While bringing them champagne, the Count shares with Jake his personal philosophy. He claims that after participating in 7 wars and 4 revolutions, he is now enjoying life to the fullest extent possible. He claims that he is constantly in love because he views it as the most significant aspect of life. Together, the group goes to a club, and at the end of the night, Brett repeatedly kisses Jake before shoving him aside. The following day, Brett departs for Spain, and Jake does not see her again for some time. Frances travels to England on her own while Kahn departs from Paris to visit the countryside. When Jake's American buddy Bill Gordon comes to visit, Jake notices Brett getting out of a taxi when they are out to dinner. Jake invites her to go out for drinks, not knowing that Brett had come back to Paris. When Brett hears that Jake believes she will eventually get married, he agrees but goes early to meet Mike Campbell, a Scottish man. Bill and Jake decide to take a trip to Spain. He agrees when Brett and Mike beg to join him before departing. Jake is furious when Brett tells him that she met Kahn while she was in Spain and the two had a brief romance. Kahn is waiting for Jake and Bill when they arrive in Bayonne by rail. Kahn is concerned that Jake will be aware of his affair with Brett. When Jake, Bill, and Kahn set out for Pamplona to meet up with Brett and Mike, they quickly learn that they had not made it since Mike fell ill en route. San Sebastian had to serve as a halt. Kahn chooses to remain in Pamplona and wait for Brett and Mike while Bill and Jake opt to continue their vacation by taking a bus to Brigitte. Kahn tells Jake about his relationship with Brett. After taking a bus to Brigitte, Bill and Jake become friends with some Basques there, the native people who inhabit the area of the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. During the lovely trip through the Spanish countryside, the Basque folks show them how to properly sip wine from a wineskin and engage them in polite discussion. When Bill and Jake get to Brigitte, the owner of the inn where they are staying charges them an outrageous sum. The innkeeper explains that it's because it's a busy time of year, but the two guys eventually discover that they are the only guests there at that time. Jake gets up early and walks outside to look for worms so they can go fishing with bait. Bill starts making jokes about his being an expatriate when he gets back to the hotel, saying that everyone believes that expats are bad writers and drunks. Bill further claims that some women believe Jake to be impotent, but Jake counters that he is not and that he simply had an accident. Bill tells Jake that he loves him more than anyone on earth as the two make fun of the situation. In New York, he claims, he cannot tell him this because he will be mistaken for a gay. Bill and Jake travel to the river to go fishing after packing a lunch. The two pals sat down for lunch after having caught a lot of fish. During lunch, they make fun of the acquaintances they made in the military, and Bill inquires about Jake's romantic history with Brett. According to Jake, he was for a very long period. After napping by the river, they return to the hotel. Bill and Jake spend 5 days fishing and playing cards in Brigitte, but they don't hear from Kahn, Brett, or Mike. Bill and Jake are reunited with Mike, Brett, and Kahn at Pamplona where they attend the running of the Bulls Festival. The gang stops at a cafe for a drink after watching the Bulls. Jake discovers that Kahn went to San Sebastian to look for Brett after he and Bill left Pamplona. Mike berates Kahn for not understanding when he isn't wanted because he is now envious of him. Mike informs Jake that if Kahn wasn't Jewish and didn't intend to be around once she had evidently finished with him, he wouldn't mind Brett having an affair. Bill then leads Kahn away. They drink a lot throughout dinner to relieve tension, and when Jake returns to his room later, he is severely inebriated. Jake believes that women make terrific friends since a man must be in love with a woman in order to be friends with her. He overhears Mike and Brett laughing as they get ready for bed together. That is how he feels about Brett, but he is aware that in order to maintain their friendship, he will eventually have to suffer. He also believes that although being relieved to see someone disparaging Kahn, he is saddened that Mike would argue with the man. On that Sunday, the running of the Bull Festival officially starts. People are dancing and rejoicing in the square, bringing the town to life. Brett is surrounded by a group of people who start dancing, and they entice Jake to join them. Following that, the friends visit a wine shop where Brett practices drinking from a wineskin and dons a garlic necklace. When Kahn eventually goes missing, Jake discovers him unconscious in the store's back. Jake spends the night alone after the group consumes a substantial dinner. Jake is awakened the following morning by the explosion of a rocket signaling the beginning of the running of the bulls. Later, Jake and his buddies watch the bullfights from a vantage point high above the amphitheater. Jake observes the running from his balcony. The party watches as Romero, a young celebrity bullfighter, enters the arena and dazzles everyone with his prowess. Particularly Brett seems mesmerized by Romero, and Mike quips that Brett might have fallen in love with Romero after the fact. To warn her that bullfighters are renowned for beating their mothers, he instructs Jake. Jake joins up with his friends in the hotel dining area the following morning. Romero, a bullfighter, is also present, dining with a reporter. Romero and Jake discuss bullfighting. Romero strikes Jake as a quiet but incredibly driven young man who appreciates Jake's company. When Brett finally gets Jake to introduce Romero to the group, he discovers that all of his pals are highly inebriated. Brett, the only one who is sober, starts a private conversation with Romero. Jake wonders if Kahn genuinely enjoys the whole inebriated spectacle as he and Mike get into another altercation. As visitors pour into the area for the festival's final day, Brett lets Jake know that she would like some alone time with him. She complains to him about the actions of Mike and Kahn. Jake responds yes when Brett asks if he still has feelings for her. Brett acknowledges that she is attracted in Romero but feels uncomfortable saying it. When Jake and Brett agree to go look for Romero, they discover him talking to his bullfighting friends. Romero and Brett go jointly, leaving Jake behind. After almost getting kicked out of the bar for fighting once more, Jake runs into Mike and Bill there. Mike acknowledges that she and Romero have left together after Kahn finds the other people and insists that Jake tell him where Brett is. Kahn is enraged by this and refers to Jake as a pimp. When Jake swings at Kahn, a brawl breaks up, and Mike gets involved. Kahn instantly kills Jake. When Jake wakes up, he returns to the hotel and discovers Kahn sobbing on his bed. Kahn expresses regret for punching Jake and begs for pardon. He receives Jake's forgiveness and a handshake. After seeing the bullfight the following day, Jake finds out that Kahn discovered Brett and Romero together and attacked Romero. Kahn was knocked out by Romero after Brett shouted at him. Mike acknowledges telling Brett he didn't want her to be around Kahn any longer and Brett responding that it made her miserable. She confessed to him that Lord Ashley, her ex-husband, had assaulted her and that she was sick of the British nobility. Kahn departs Pamplona the following day. Romero is very bruised after the fight with Kahn, but Brett assures everyone that he still intends to participate in the bullfight that day. Mike knocks down a table at the cafe because he is upset that Brett is still seeing Romero. Jake is yanked away by Brett. They return to the motel, where Jake checks into his room while Brett visits Romero's. The party reconvenes, Mike absent, for the final bullfight. Romero hands Brett his cape to use as a shield. Romero executes the bullfight flawlessly, as always, and after killing the bull, he gives Brett one of its ears. Later on same day, Brett and Romero board a train together to leave the city. While having a drink with Bill in a cafe, Jake discovers Mike intoxicated in his hotel room. Mike, Bill, and Jake travel back to Bayonne the following day. Mike is left off in Saint-Jean-de-Luz after Bill separates from them at the train station. Jake makes his way to Bayonne before continuing to San Sebastian. But not long after arriving, Brett sends him 2 telegrams informing him that she needs him and that she is in peril. When Jake arrives in Madrid to visit Brett, she gives him a kiss goodbye. Romero has been dispatched, she tells him, but she also sent for Jake out of concern that he could refuse to go if she asked him to. She refused Romero's proposal of marriage, so she made him go. She expresses to Jake her desire to return to Mike. Jake consumes a lot of alcohol when she and him head out to lunch. Brett warns him not to become too inebriated and assures him that everything will be fine. She remarked that Brett and Jake may have made a fine couple as they got into a taxi together. Jake responds, "It's pretty to think so." Jake Barnes, the lead character and narrator of the novel. Jake is a young man who just got back from fighting. Jake sustained a wound during the conflict that prevents him from engaging in sexual activity. Throughout the book, Jake repeatedly states that he does not believe that his injury has significantly impacted his life and that he believes other people make more of a fuss about it than he does. However, it is frequently inferred that Jake is at least a bit grieved by the loss of the capacity for intimacy, particularly with regard to Brett. Through deft character interactions, the book analyzes the psychological effects of Jake's injury. Jake's interactions with other men frequently reflect his feelings of inadequacy. It is clear that his animosity toward Kahn and the other men competing for Brett's favor, in particular, stems from a wounded masculinity. Jake's character does not develop significantly throughout the book, and it might be said that he closes the book in a similar setting to where he began, with Brett in a taxi, discussing their relationship struggles. Jake is portrayed as a distant witness who can explain the specifics of the story to the reader, especially in light of the fact that he is unable to engage in sexual activity with Brett. Lady Brett Ashley, the main heroine of the novel. When we first meet Brett, she is a stunning English heiress who is residing in Paris and having a good time. Almost every man Brett meets falls in love with her, and she frequently plans to date them all at once. She has some sort of affair with nearly all of the story's male characters, who are practically all in love with her. Because Brett values her freedom over relationships, she won't commit to any of the guys in her life. She is not content with her life, though. She frequently confides in Jake that she is miserable and unhappy with her life. Brett is another example of Hemingway's underdeveloped and frequently sexist female characters. Although she is depicted as a strong and independent woman, Jake says that Brett can't go anywhere alone because she feels the need to have a man with her. Additionally, Brett's persona is portrayed as a depraved and perilous force to the males in her life. Just her being there, she wrecks male friendships. It cannot be stated that Brett told the truth to any of them because she appears to be in love with and adamant about whichever man is with her at the time. Robert Kahn, good Jake's friend and a former middleweight champion boxer. After the war, Kahn and his domineering lover Frances relocated to Paris to mix it up with the other foreigners already residing there. Kahn writes a novel while residing in Paris, and some of the book is dedicated to trying to get it published. A meek, introverted man named Kahn turns to boxing to combat his loneliness at Princeton. Kahn has a propensity to follow other people's directions, especially ladies. Jake is unsure of why he dates the domineering, materialistic Frances, but he later develops feelings for Brett and hangs around, as Mike would say, far past the point at which most guys would have understood she didn't want them. Because of his battered character, Jake and the other men utilize Kahn as an outlet for their own anxieties, mocking him for his flaws and his beliefs. Kahn stands out for ridicule since he is the only male in the group who did not fight in the conflict. To Brett's opposition, Kahn's answer is similar to that of the other males in the book. Despite the fact that she clearly does not want them, they are all after her and won't leave her alone. Mike Campbell, a rich heir to a wealthy Scottish family who drinks heavily and courts Brett. Since they both come from wealthy families, Mike believes it is inevitable that he will be the one to wed Brett. When Mike drinks, his terrible temper just gets worse. He routinely issues fight challenges to Brett's other suitors. With Brett's inability to calm down, Mike struggles the most and frequently experiences bouts of self-pity and outbursts of rage. Bill Gordon, Jake's good friend and former squad mate in the war. Bill is the only man in the novel who does not appear to be in love with Brett, and he frequently utilizes humor to diffuse tense situations. Bill declares that he prefers Jake over everyone else in the world and that he enjoys having Jake around. Bill, though, displays a lot of the same hardness and cruelty as the other characters in the novel. Ernest Miller Hemingway, an American novelist and short story writer, was born in Oak Park, Illinois, in 1899. He is best known for his works The Sun Also Rises, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and, of course, A Farewell to Arms. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1954 and produced 7 novels, 6 collections of short stories, and 2 non-fiction books throughout his lifetime. Posthumously, he had a few more of his writings published. Hemingway frequently drew on his experiences as a passionate bullfight fan, fisherman, and hunter in his books. His language is laconic, and he portrays his emotions subtly. Many of his books are recognized as classics of American literature, and some of them have even been adapted for the big screen. Hemingway was born and raised in Oak Park, Illinois, and joined the Kansas City Star as a reporter before quitting after a few months to volunteer as an ambulance driver in Italy during World War I. Later, he joined the Italian troops and suffered serious injuries. Hemingway relocated to Paris after the war and accepted a position as a correspondent for the Toronto Star. He made friends with American writers living abroad while there, including Ezra Pound and Gertrude Stein, who supported him in his writing. Hemingway started working as a correspondent for the U.S. First Army during World War II. Despite not being a military, he took part in a number of conflicts. He first relocated to Havana, Cuba, following the war, and later settled in Ketchum, Idaho. But Ernest Hemingway seems to have experienced his own particular sadness, as he shot himself in the head with a shotgun in 1961 after a career of binge drinking. In Idaho's Ketchum, he is interred. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.